Whether you're listening at home, at work, or anywhere, thanks for making ParaX part of your day. Your source for everything paranormal, ParaX.
And welcome back, everybody, right here to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Hope you're enjoying the show. We have with us Barbara Duncan.
I am still here.
And we got Jeffrey Gould.
Hello.
Oh, he is here. And we got our great guest, Darcie McGrath.
Hello.
All right. So, was you talking about something before we went to break, Barbara?
I was just commenting on the concept of what Darcie is talking about, awareness of your surroundings and where you are consciously in the universe. And it sounded a lot like Buddhist philosophy, which is, are we really here? And where our consciousness expands to, which falls back into parapsychology. So.
Yeah, I have found a lot of parallels in Buddhist principle in regards to consciousness. And how even the Tibetan Book of the Dead, one of the rituals that they do at the time of death is to coax the person who's passing away to ascend to the highest level possible. You know, don't be distracted by anyone trying to talk to you. Don't be distracted by loved ones. Go to the highest and the best. And I always thought that was just fascinating that they built that into the death process. And I think that would very greatly shape your afterlife as to which level you decided to settle for when you die. So, yeah.
Very much so. And it's interesting, the correlations, and I don't even want to fathom, I can't remember how old the Tibetan Book of the Dead is either, but the fact that it is ingrained into that philosophy is fascinating to me, just as the Hindu philosophy and religion also coincides with a lot of quantum physics and astrophysics that we're learning about today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of truth in all of the religious disciplines. It might be using different verbiage, but one of the exciting opportunities, I got to have a conversation with Andy Kopic, who developed the full spectrum camera. He's a graduate of quantum thermodynamics from MIT. And his significant other was there at a conference with him, and I'm drawing a blank, and maybe you guys have probably a better idea who this is than I do. He was a member of the Exorcist organization associated with the Vatican. And he would oftentimes go to paranormal conventions warning people about the evils of what they were doing. And I'm drawing a blank. I think he had his own television show for a while, too. The Exorcist Files, I think it was.
I can't remember.
The
Exorcist Files?
Yeah.
A lot of the major Bible thumpers are all don't talk to demons, you're just going to, bring in everything terrible and open a door you can't close kind of thing, so...
Oh, yeah. Well, he was at one of the conventions that Andy was at, and the two of them ended off in a corner of the room together.
Ooh.
And Michelle, who was his significant other, walked in on them having a very loud and animated discussion, and she was afraid they were fighting. No, they were excited because what the Vatican exorcist representative, the language he was using, Andy could find correlating scientific language that would verify what he was saying as far as the exorcism process and what was experienced in the exorcism process. And Andy would say, well, in quantum physics, we call it this, that, da, 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 da. And so, here Michelle walked in on this conversation, thinking she was going to have to break up a fight. And it turned out that they were just very excited. But they were just using different language.
Sure.
Do you did you watch a TV series that ran this past season called Evil?
Yes, I did.
I love that show.
I did too, and I actually know people from both sides of the field in that. I have a friend of mine who's very, very into the Vatican and the workings of it and the evolution that they're going through right now. And a lot of that is pretty accurately represented in that series.
Yeah, but the last two episodes too, when the Goat Man showed up, was like, wait, what, right?
Oh yeah.
Where you didn't realize the I can't remember his name. The actor who's been the antagonist. We just thought he was on his own, but he's
right.
he's got his own little Satan as his therapist.
Right. Oh, I thought that was brilliant. Yeah. So there were a lot of telltale things in there that I thought were fascinating, especially the part about the lucid dreaming.
Oh yeah.
And I had just been studying Robert Stevenson and some of the other experts on lucid dreaming, and when I started watching that show, I'm like, you know what? If she just did this in her lucid dream, she'd be able to figure it out. The very next episode, boom, they jumped right into lucid dreaming, and I'm like, oh, that's great.
The writing on the ceiling. You mean the writing
yes.
on the ceiling? Yeah.
Yes, and having the string on her finger, or the string on her wrist.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. So that's straight out of the playbook for lucid dreaming. So I was just like, and I've had that happen to me.
Yeah, and she was able to expel George pretty easily that way.
Yeah. No, I thought it was brilliant. I actually put that on my parapsychology or paranormal site because I was just like, this is brilliant. You got to see this. I put that out there. But I've had that happen in lucid dreaming too, where I'll be sitting there and I'll be trying to type something on the computer, and I'll type it over and over and over again. It's just gobbledygook and gobbledygook and gobbledygook. I'm like, I know I'm typing it right. Why the heck? I'm like, oh, I'm dreaming. From the moment I realized I was dreaming, of course I woke up. Like, dang it.
That's what always annoys me. The few times I realize I think I'm dreaming. Ding! Either wake up or the dream says, hey, look over here. And you look over there and you forget that you're dreaming again.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And
like the dream
that goes back to
distracts you.
I've got a question again from the chat room. It's from Tabby Cat. And she wants to know, what has been your most profound paranormal experience you've had?
Oh, wow. Well, I've had to say the last several of them I've had at Gettysburg were just amazing in that they were so physical and so undeniably there. I mean, I've had episodes where I've captured stuff on camera, I've captured stuff on the audio before, but to actually have an audio phenomenon happening right there in front of me, and, you can't see anything, but you can talk to it, and it responds to your voice. And that was just really it was one of my first times I've actually had a very interactive episode where I've seen cause and effect. So, I mean, I know when that whoever it was came to my door, and he was going to come in, and I'm like, I had to hold my ground. I was the only one in the house. Everybody else was outside. They were asleep. So I just basically had to stand my ground and say, not in a lady's bedroom, you don't.
Huh.
And the footsteps stopped, and you could hear this rocking of the floorboards, like somebody was rocking on their heels, and like they weren't quite sure what to do. And then they started pacing up and down the hallway. You could hear the footsteps, kind of like agitated that they couldn't come in.
Huh.
And so, fortunately enough, he understood boundaries, and he listened to me.
And he was waiting for instructions. Like, no one's ever stood up to me before. What the?
Well, either that or he really wanted to talk to me, and he was annoyed that I put him off.
Well, this brings up a good question, Darcie. Do you, when you go on investigations or into a client's house after something like this, would you counsel them to say, you need to set a boundary here? No, you can't come into my bedroom. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, what you allow will continue. That's an old saying from way back when, but it's still very prominent today. And that's why you have problems with bullies today, is that you fall into this victimized mentality and you let the bully walk all over you. It's the same here. You have this entity in your house. This is your house. You have every right to set your boundaries for yourself. Now, you don't have the right to threaten them or scream and yell obscenities at them, or challenge them. If you do that, then you're asking for a fight. but you have every right to set boundaries for yourself. And that's something I have actually learned doing EVP sessions too. I've heard of negative entities coming into a location, and it shows up on the recorder, and you hear the other entities that are in that location fending them off with that very verbiage. Do not touch me. Leave me alone. And they are setting their boundaries. And it's like, that's something we got to learn to do. And for some people, that's very hard because they never learned to do it. Even in adulthood, they haven't learned to do it.
Now,
Well, that's one of the things I found about like the Travel Channel is there's a lot of victimization that seems to happen on a lot of these shows.
Yes.
And there needs to be a trend away from that somehow.
Yeah.
But they don't show a lot
unfortunately-
of resolution.
No, they don't have a lot of resolution, and that's the sad part about it, because I know a lot of paranormal investigators, when they get their start, they're learning from those shows. And those shows don't carry the whole case through. Now, they might actually have resolution on those cases. They just don't show it because it doesn't make good television. The producers just think it's boring. I don't ever going to show that stuff. Ghost Hunters talked about that a couple times, where they've done things outside the parameters of the episode that are not aired.
right.
But they've offered a resolution for the client in such a way, but it's because of the parameters set for the show and the scope set for the show. They don't want to get too much into religion. They don't want to get too much into spirituality. And so those things are done off camera.
Now,
and
we
even with
talked-
media.
Yeah, we talked about that before. It's that, and somehow when you investigate a noise in the middle of the night, you don't think to turn the light on.
No.
And I'm just going, come on, guys, let's make it a little bit more realistic, because people are watching this from, like I said, binge watching during quarantine, and they start to see things happening around the house, and they look at TV and they see somebody scared half to death. No resolution. They're walking down and see things in the middle of the night because they're not turning the light on. And yeah, they just run out of the house in the middle of the night and never go back.
Yeah, their imagination that gets the better of them. And I mean, how many times have we woken up in the middle of the night and we've seen a silhouette in the window and we're completely freaking out? And then we turn on the light and find out, oh, the dress we hung up in the window there looked like a person was standing there. But, of course, you turn the light, it illuminates that, But people, because they see these television shows, think they need to wander around in the dark. And I just laugh at that, because I've investigated day or night. If a place is haunted, it's haunted 24/7. It's not going to wait till the lights go out and then come out. No, there is a psychological process that happens when you sleep. I should say a neurological process that happens when you sleep.
Sure.
That when you go through several cycles during the night, and usually around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, depending on what time you went to bed. It typically happens between 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. You're going to wake up. Whether or not you recall waking up, you will wake up. And that's usually when people are reporting to me that they have experiences, is because they've woken up and then they've forgotten they've woken up. Or they've woken up but not quite fully. And that's when you can actually have either waking dreams, or you might have a psychic episode, because your brain chemistry is in that mapped state that most mediums are in to receive that information at that point in time in your sleep cycle. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, people talk about the witching hour and, the dead time and all that kind of stuff. And, yeah, it sounds dramatic and everything. And if you watch too much TV, you might actually buy into that. But as far as your neurological programming is concerned, when it comes to sleeping, you're going to be more receptive to things happening at that time of the day, because you're more or less half asleep, half awake.
Yeah, I've never bought into that stuff, really.
Yeah, and there's no reason to be investigating from 10 o'clock at night till 6 o'clock in the morning. There's no reason. No. Not unless you have an addiction problem with Red Bull.
Oh, well.
That's very true.
Now, I know
But also, it's I'm sorry, if you see a black mass in your hallway in the middle of the night and you turn the light on, If the black mass is still there, then you have a haunting. If not, it could be a number of shadow things.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I don't buy the turn off the lights.